Some people think that lean and TPM don't really mix because they're completely different philosophies. No, not true. In fact, most TPM implementations will also have a lean pillar or a lean flow pillar. Let's dive into that. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And if your factory has product flowing through it, and let's be honest, which factory doesn't, then a lean approach might be very useful for you. But then also, if it's like manufacturing with quite a number of machines, probably TPM has a quicker, more direct way of sort of improving your main assets. So quite naturally, you would want to combine those two. Now, when we do a TPM implementation, you think about pillars like focus improvement, plant maintenance, autonomous maintenance, quality management, stuff like that. But also think about starting up a lean pillar, or lean flow, or a supply chain pillar. That is the whole idea. Bringing in these mainly logistics and supply chain focused ways of thinking that lean brings us, bring it into your total productive maintenance. Because that maintenance isn't about the machines, right? We have discussed that a couple of times. It is about maintaining your standards. And machines are a big part of your standards, but there are so many more things, like the material flow, like getting stuff not too much, just enough, on time, at the place where you need them. Very 5S, right? It really fits in with the whole concept. The thing is only that when you go more into lean, then you're looking more at that supply chain and sort of logistic operation. Doesn't mean that it will also have a great benefit to your product flows. And that is what we are going to be looking into. Now, the lean pillar, it looks at how products go through your factory, how value streams through your organization. And that means that we're not really that interested in which machines we have. We're more interested in how does money, value, move through all of our processes, including those processes that by themselves don't cost anything, right? Planning and warehousing, well, costs a couple of people and maybe some space, but it's not a big investment. All of the stuff you put in your warehouse, now that is expensive. But the same goes for all of the product that goes through your machines. And especially if we're thinking about work in progress. So we're really looking at so that inventory, what does it do? And inventory is not just raw material, finished good. No, it is also everything that is in production, in work in progress, right? WIP. That is the focus of the lean pillar. That also means that the lean pillar will do the type of analysis that, well, the value stream map you might have already even put in there, that looks at how does it flow. Materials, products, but also people, information. So how do we have stuff stream through our factory? And the focus on what are wastes, they're also slightly different from the traditional TPM approach, because within lean, and you probably know these three sort of waste that we have. Muri, Mura, and Muda, with Muri being overburdening, so we put too much onto a machine, too much on people, we fully clog some process or some resource, and by doing that, by overburdening it, this can be as simple as just operating a machine above its threshold speed, right? So it wears out quicker. The same, by the way, can also definitely be true of human machines, so to say. So us humans, if you put too much work, too much stress on a person, they burn out, right? That also happens in manufacturing. Stuff like that. Mura, that is unevenness. So say we had in one of my previous factories, we sort of had this joke in planning that our customer would love to have 3 Mondays and no Friday every week, because they wanted all of the, we had sort of this rule that they could order per week, but they wanted it all delivered on Monday, right? They wanted Monday to be the production day and then get all of the stuff out. And then the rest of the week, well, do what you want. So one of the things that planning department had to do was to spread that load that the clients were ordering everything on Monday, spread it again out over the week to burden the equipment and the teams so that evenly. We see that a lot, right? That is one of the things that in the concept of lean flow, in the supply chain, internal supply chain as well, we look at, are we unbalancing our demand, our flows, our rhythms? Or can we get rid of that waste of Mura, and can we even things out? Can we make sure that the demand on the actual productive assets, it doesn't change that much, right? So market demand can go up and down, but we make sure that we even that out. And then the Muda, the 7 wastes of lean, which probably you know. So these are transport and inventory, motion, so all kinds of things with moving product or people. Then we have waiting for new work to come in, over-processing, doing a bit more than is really needed, overproduction, also known as the mother of all of the other Muda. That means you're just making too much more than is needed at the moment. So that creates inventory, it creates transporting, it just adds costs. And defects. Now, defects is the one that traditional TPM has absolutely the same ideas about. It's just that most of the other pillars of TPM will not really be looking at transport or inventory or things like that. That makes this pillar take a very valuable new look at our systems. That is the absolute strength of having that sort of duo of focused improvement who takes a cost-based approach. And if you are more into lean, or if you learned lean or theory of constraints before you learned anything about TPM, then quite likely you will have this sort of adverse reaction to TPM's cost-based accounting and stuff like that. It has its merits, absolutely does. But combining that with this inventory type of looking, so looking for the 7 wastes, not just defects, looking for this overburdening, looking for unevenness in our production, that really sets a good tone for when you're looking more into the internal and external supply chain organization. And what is the goal of that lean pillar? It's the goal of getting rid of these types of losses. We want products to flow through the organization. And that starts already when an order is placed. So we usually in lean count when a customer puts an order until it's delivered to them. So if you are one of those, well, I don't know, furniture factories or car factories, that when I place an order for, when I went out to buy a new car, it was a 6 or 9 month waiting period. That is not the production time of a car, right? The production time is days, maybe, if something's wrong in the factory. It's hours more likely. So 6 to 9 months, it's all air. That too is a disruptor to flow. But maybe even more importantly is that when you actually have the material somewhere, that you don't want stale inventory. You want the parts that you have in to just be there when they're needed, not much earlier. Don't have a huge stock of them. It can only get obsolete. It may be defective without you knowing it. It takes up space. All kinds of problems, right? This is the lean philosophy. Make sure everything keeps flowing. Now, what does the pillar then do? If you set up this pillar in the TPM mentality, like any of the other pillars, you have a couple of sort of goals and systems. You need to have loss intelligence. So that pillar will really start with value stream mapping. That is the workhorse of this pillar. You start with your current state value stream maps by defining product families, walking the shop floor, walking the process, the flow, detecting these losses, and like that you have a current state. And then you do improvement work on what will be our future state, how would we like it to look, what are the KPIs. So you determine your priorities like in any other pillar, and you also set up the tools for analyzing these losses. Then we get into actually improving it. So when we're improving, this pillar has the interesting real double work. So most of the other pillars, they will have almost like their improvement teams are, well, you can do them separate from their support system. In Lean, it's sort of the same, right? Because the support systems are the stuff you put in place to really make things work. But the improvement team is all of the difficult calculations that go into them. Now, what are those type of support systems? We need to make sure that flow is in place. For instance, by looking at where do we differentiate our products? Say, if we have a couple of process steps that our product needs to go through. So we have a nice material warehouse, and from one of the base materials, we make two products, and they go through all of our processes. And then there's another material that goes through there. Anytime we want one of these, we'll have to order that new stuff. On one of these, we have to plan in production on all of these stations, order materials, or we already have huge stocks everywhere. It's a big chance that each of those places will have quite a lot of inventory lying around here, right? All of these, they are basically all their own separate inventories, unless you're already pushing it through the system. One of the tools, and this is quite an involved one, is to go to a much later differentiation. This way, if we can sort of re-engineer our product in such a way, the first couple of processes are the same, then we only have a little bit of stock lying everywhere, and here at the end we split it out. Makes us much more flexible. I know, this is quite an advanced way of doing things and will not be possible for each production, each manufacturing. But it's a big one for Lean if you can get this to work. Then of course there's also a number of tools that you will already know, and these are also the systems, right? You put these in place. So for instance, when we look at the effectiveness of the logistical chain around production, we really like these U cells, so work cells, where different workplaces are close together, so the operator in the middle can just go to whatever they need. That system works wonderful in manual assembly, all kinds of sort of manual labor, right? We're not talking huge vessel process stuff, but anytime you have people that need to do a couple of operations, put them in the middle, make sure you can do all those operations without too much motion. And of course, we supply this, right? So we have a box of, a nice open box of our supplies, of our raw materials, and small parts, and all kinds of stuffs there, with a second bin waiting for us, a 2-bin Kanban system. So here we have just a second one in reserve. It's exactly the same. When we empty the first one, we open the second one, and this triggers a resupply, a 2-bin Kanban. Now that, of course, will feed into not just a product warehouse. Now we organize that warehouse. So we make a supermarket. We produce stuff into fixed minimum maximum stock levels. This way, whenever an order by a customer comes in, we can just give it to them, and we will replenish that warehouse of, it can be parts, but can in this case also be finished goods. We'll replenish it when there is a low level, and we can put it on the production plan. The same thing also works in the start, because if we keep pulling out the parts that we need to our work cells, and the central warehouse can work like a supermarket system as well. And of course, what I described here, that supermarket, only when parts go out, we replenish. So we have a pull system. When they need something, we get production orders here. All Lean types of tools. I don't want to go into those too deeply in this video because it's just too much detail. But these are what the Lean or Lean Flow supply chain pillar brings to TPM. Now, where's the integration then? Well, all of these, they are standards. Right? So we analyze where we see losses. We have ways to put a money figure to that as well. So you can propose teams that help with the flow. then your steering committee or your management team will also give resources to do improvement teams to go and figure all of that out. And when we have them in place, you need to support these systems. So a supermarket with min-max levels, that is a work standard. And you will need your management team to do process controls on that. Oh, that sounds quite a lot like that system that the quality pillar will set up. And also, when you have that 2-bin Kanban system in place, that's basically just advanced 5S, right? This too, a sort of advanced 5S. These are all work standards. They need to be maintained. They need to be trained out. Those machines will still need uptime. The more you're going to be, relying on specific machines to sort of become a bottleneck, the more you need machine reliability, the focus of plant maintenance. So all of these pillars, they all work together. FI, that sort of sometimes angry brother of the lean pillar, because FI looks at the cost and the sort of machine cost, while lean looks at getting stuff throughput, but also flow. But if you can, and FI does this, reduce setup times, reduce changeover times. Now, FI's approach to this would be so that we spend less time on it. The lean pillar will probably, in many cases, tell them, we will use that not to improve our OEE, we will use it to make ourselves way more flexible. So if our setups go from 3-4 hours for a product change to maybe half an hour, let's use that to make those products every week and maybe even a couple of times a week. Inventory levels can drop tremendously if you have that flexibility. Because one, you don't need to hold a lot of inventory to go out to your customer, but two, you also don't need to own a lot of inventory on the front end, because we know, right, that if we spend all of the raw material, okay, we end this production run, quickly order in some new, and we'll just set up for the same product 1 or 2 days later when the new material is in. So you just create a way of making all of the product flow better, thanks to what the TPM pillars have been supporting for you. So it is a very natural pillar to put into your TPM house. Now a question on when then. In a traditional manufacturing setup, so where machinery is sort of the most important and sort of the bottleneck, I would advise you to first set up your basic TPM pillars. So that is focused improvement, that is plant maintenance, autonomous maintenance or management, and quality management. Then maybe safety, training and education, but also already quite likely get that lean pillar in at that moment. So this is for an industry where the machines are the main focus and probably the bottleneck. If you have the type of manufacturing where it's mainly all kinds of manual labor, job shop type of things, so it's not per se a big bottleneck somewhere in a big machine, but it's more likely that how you get your orders through in an effective way, how you make sure that all of those hundreds of parts that you need for all kinds of different products all arrive at the correct time and people don't get out of stock of whatever, right, work in progress parts, then start with lean. Probably that type of system should start with lean at all, not too much TPM. So if you have sort of a mix, you do have quite a number of machines, maybe some quality issues with product, maybe some maintenance issues, then start it up as a TPM organization with lean being one of the first pillars you set up, because they will give you focus for where the other pillars need to do their magic. Now I hope that sort of explained to you how the lean pillar or the supply chain pillar has a critical role within a TPM program as well. Think about it in your own TPM organization, and if this was helpful for you at all, let me know in the comments and press that like button. For now, I wish you the best of luck setting up your own lean flow pillar, and as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.